Calling in Eran Bashan, who is the CEO. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Is it Hygieia?
It is Hygieia. Thank you, Mike. Good to be here, and you pronounced it perfectly.
Now, I wrote a story last week about your company and posted it to my website and newsletter. But I thought the fact that you're doing this diabetes treatment and that it actually that's what it's really focused on. What you're doing is a technology focused on treatment, right? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are the first to bring a digital health tool to market that is focused on insulin treatment. So we hear a lot today about digital health, but it's important to know that most of the tools that are out there are actually not for treatment. Treatment in the past was something that only physicians or clinicians did. And we have created the first tool that is specifically focused on treatment, and it's focused on insulin management. So other tools that you have out there are designed to improve your behavior, lifestyle modification, make sure that you do what people are asking you to do, give you better knowledge. So maybe like a continuous glucose monitor will always tell you where your sugar is, but will never tell you what to do about it. Or some efficiency tool that are focused on the doctors. But the reality is that if you have type 2 diabetes, it's a progressive condition. And with time, you become more and more insulin deficient. And while insulin as a treatment has been around for nearly 100 years, it's not working particularly well. 70% of people in the US that inject insulin still have sugars too high. Their hemoglobin A1C is above 7. And then a lot of bad things can happen to you. But we know that that can be fixed if only you would have taken the right dose on insulin. And that's what we are here to address. We've developed a tool that tells you exactly how much insulin you need to inject.
And this is FDA certified, I believe, right?
Absolutely. We are the first that have been cleared by the FDA to adjust all types of insulin injection, whether you inject once a day, twice a day, or 4 times a day. We can work with you and we can give you specific guidance for that injection so that it takes the guesswork out of insulin therapy. And if you do that, we know 90% of the people get better very quickly.
Give me an example of how it actually works. So you look at the app, and then what happens?
So everything starts with checking your glucose. So before your injection, you need to start by measuring your glucose, and you apply a drop of blood or you have a continuous glucose monitor. It doesn't really matter how you do that. But once you have that glucose number, the question is, what do you do next? And our app will take that glucose reading, and within a couple of clicks would say, oh, I see, it's probably around noontime. Are you about to have your lunch? And if you say, yes, I'm having my lunch, it would tell you, well, today for lunch, I want you to take 12 units of Humalog. So you would take your insulin pen, dial it to 12 units, inject, and that's it. The next time that you take a glucose reading, it accumulates all the data in memory and use artificial intelligence to analyze the glucose, look for patterns in glucose, and tailor your doses for your individual needs.
Now, is there an alert mechanism if I don't have diabetes and I don't know that much about it? So forgive me if I ask stupid questions, but is there an alert mechanism for when your sugars get out of balance and it tells you to take your shot or what?
So you would typically inject your insulin on a regular intervals, whether, once a day when you wake up or before you go to bed or with every meal or twice a day at your breakfast and at your dinner. And so you have your routine schedule, but what we actually have created, so while we've developed this app, we are a unique specialty provider within Michigan. So we actually have a clinic. And in our clinic, there are physicians, there are nurses, clinicians that will make sure that you're making the best use out of this technology. So once you approach us or refer to us by your physician, we will schedule a meeting with you like this through Zoom, and we can set you up with the technology and train you on how to use the device. And then every time you use it, because it's an app, all the data goes to the cloud. So every morning or every day, somebody in our clinic would look into your information, and absolutely there are alerts there. So if something is out of the normal range, we may get back with you and say, hey, how are you doing? Everything is okay? It looks like maybe you've missed an injections. or your sugars was a little bit low. Do you know how to treat your low sugar? So it's a fully virtual structured support to make sure that you make the best use out of the technology.
Okay, and then I'm looking at your notes here. It's peer-reviewed, research, validated. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So it was interesting. You made a comment previously about the FDA. And as I mentioned, there aren't that many digital health tools in the world today that actually do treatment. In the US, in outside of ours, there's only two other that I can think of. So most of those things were historically were done by physicians. Now, the FDA doesn't regulate the practice of medicine. It regulates manufacturing of medical devices. So here we have, in a way, software that practice medicine. So what's your predicate? How do you compare it to something? Well, you got to compare it to a physician, but a physician is not a medical device. So it was a very long journey since we started of multiple clinical studies. And over time, we made the FDA more and more comfortable with the technology, what it is doing, how it is doing, why it should be cleared for market in the US. And during this time, we've done 5 clinical studies. We've published 16 papers in multiple journals, including a year ago, we had a publication in The Lancet, which is perhaps the second best medical journal in the world, second just to the New England Journal of Medicine. And all of that hard work and all of this body of evidence that is all peer-reviewed, judged by others, looked for, and verified for its accuracy, eventually made its way to the FDA, and the FDA got convinced. Seems to be doing something right, and people are getting better. Today we have COVID out there, and when you have your high sugars, there are all kinds of risks that are associated with it. Generally, we talk about long-term diabetes complications, but if you have COVID and you're admitted to the hospital with COVID, if your sugars are high, if your hemoglobin A1C is above 8.5, compared to the normal range of 7.0 below, you are 10 times more likely to die out of COVID. Really? So it's really, really important to get your sugars to the normal range. And if you're using insulin to treat diabetes, all it takes is administering the right dose. And the question is, what is the right dose? And there isn't really an optimal dose. It will constantly change. Study tells us that every week or so, you will need to adjust the dose. And that's what we can do for you. That's what our technology can do for you. It will optimize that dose, will be with you every injection. We're in Michigan. In Michigan, there are over 1 million people with diabetes. Really? And over 300,000 use insulin to treat their diabetes. And of those, over 200,000 have high sugars. And it's strictly because they're not taking the right amount of insulin. We know from our program, for a study that we've done here with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, 90% of the people will get better within 3 months. Will have better sugars, will lower the risk for COVID. So, if you're hearing this, if you're using insulin to treat your diabetes and you're worried about the upcoming fall, when flu comes back, COVID comes back in big numbers, there is something you can do today, and we can help you, and we would love to help you. And if you're a doctor and if you're referring one of your patients to us, we share all the data back to you. The only thing that we do is insulin management. So we don't replace your primary care physician. We don't replace your endocrinologist if you have one. We work with them. We share all the data with them. So if your doctors like to, they can log into the website and see how much insulin you've injected at breakfast or at lunch. It's right at the moment information. All has been peer-reviewed, vetted, and available for anybody that wants to look at the research.
So you made a couple references to a very long process. How long has the process been? How many years have you been at this?
Yeah, so it's interesting because we started out of the University of Michigan in 2008. And initially went to about 5 years of simply clinical studies until we had our first regulatory approval, and it was at the time to use it in Europe. So in 2013, we've opened our first clinic in Northern Ireland in Belfast, and we've started treating patients that are working with the NHS. And then in October 2016, we've started a study with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, and we opened a clinic in Livonia. But it was only last February, that we have fully launched commercially in Michigan. And initially it was limited to a small set of Blue Cross Blue Shield of patients, but as of July 1, it's available for everybody. So cumulatively, between the beginning of the time that we've started doing it until now, we've served more than 3,000 patient years. Our software had prescribed more than 4 million doses of insulin. If you're a physician, if you're doing this 10 times a day, this is like 1,500 physician years. So we have quite a bit of experience of using this and quite a bit of happy patients that can talk about what a change this made in their life.
Oh, interesting. And so it sounds like a lot of money. Does that mean that you have angel investors or venture capitalists behind this or anything of that nature?
Yeah, absolutely. So like any other startup companies, we've raised money initially from angels in the Michigan community, later on from some VCs, from family offices. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan invested in the company. And we're actually out there today raising more money because our goal is to bring it to as many people as possible, as soon as possible. And as much as we'd like to think ourselves as the center of the universe, there's other people in the US outside of Michigan, and we'd like to make sure that this is available to all of them.
Sure. Now, to get the app, it doesn't require a doctor prescribing it, right? Anybody could go to the Play Store or wherever and just download the app, or how does that work?
So yes and no. You can go to the App Store or the Play Store and download, but it does require a prescription. So it's FDA clearance. It's a prescription-only medical device. And when you refer yourself to our clinic, or when your doctor refer you to our clinic, we will prescribe it to you, which really means figuring out what insulin do you use, how many times a day, what's the starting point, and what extra parameters the doctors want to put in there as a safety measures. Once it's been set up for you, then you'll be able to use it. So while you can go and download it from the App Store, it won't start working until you actually have a prescription from a d-Nav care center clinician. And all of this can be done virtually. So we can set you up remotely. You can go to our website, or you can go to d-Navpatient.com, leave us your information, chat with us. We will send you a kit over the mail. We'll send you a blood collection tool to get your A1C done in a lab through the mail, and we'll schedule a virtual appointment and set you up and prescribe you with the app.
All right. I'm sure there's a cost involved, but I imagine most medical plans would cover that cost?
Absolutely. So this is covered by most insurance. And like any other time that you see a specialist, there might be some co-pays or co-insurances, but depending on your plan, that could be $0 to maybe limited to $30 or $40.
Okay. So why don't you give us that URL if people want to find out more? What website do they go to?
The best place to start is dnavpatient.com. That's D-N-A-V patient.com, or they can also go to Hygieia.com.
Traditional four-year students love Lawrence Technological University's thriving campus life, but LTU has always met non-traditional students' needs too. Lawrence Tech offers over 100 degree and certificate programs that can get adult students started or back on track. And most of our classes are conveniently offered evenings at our beautiful Southfield campus or online, so you can balance your social, family, and work life even while you power up your career. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.